You're listening to The Secrets of Sacred Art, where we unearth the hidden treasures, history, and deeper meanings in religious and sacred art. We're your hosts, Alix Murray
and Kathryn Laffrey. Welcome to our first Patrons episode, Pisanki. Make them, bless them, share and eat them. In this episode, we'll explore the art of making Polish Easter eggs.
We're always looking for ways to thank you, our patrons, for your generosity in making all the shows at StarQuest possible. And this is one of those ways. Patrons will have early, exclusive access to this episode, and then we'll share it with the whole audience in several months to show them the benefit of becoming a patron.
I also added to the end of our show notes a little coloring page I made for Pisanki. When I teach classes with kids, I like to have them practice a little so everybody can have a fun little coloring page to play with too.
Nice.
So just one little bit of information. A lot of times when I tell people I teach Polish Easter eggs, they hear my last name Laffrey and they're like going, "You're Polish?" Yes. Actually, both my husband and I are half Polish. He's Polish on his mom's side, hence he has the French-Canadian last name. And I'm Polish on my dad's side. So my Polish last name was so long as a kid growing up, it would not fit onto those school forms.
Oh my gosh. That's really like my first name.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They only give you so many spaces. It's like, what do? I can't fit it on here. But
yeah.
It is what it is.
So what was your maiden name? Sorry. I've seen it spelled, but I've never heard it pronounced.
Oh, we were told to say it Siemientowski.
Okay.
It's actually Siemiankowski, I guess, if you say it right.
There you go.
There was a letter added at Easter Island, or Ellis Island.
I was going to say Easter Island. That sounds...
Sorry, we're talking about Polish Easter eggs. I had Easter on my brain.
I was going to say that would have been a really interesting side story about your family.
No, at Ellis Island, they added a letter. Why not? Let's make it 14 letters long instead of 13.
Yeah, why not? Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. But it's good to be Polish. And I do love making Polish Easter eggs. And this is what my Busha taught me. There's Busha right there.
Oh, she's a cutie.
Yeah, we loved her. Yep. And that's her favorite kind of pisanki to make. Just white, blue egg. That was her thing.
Yeah. Simple and sweet.
Oh, yeah. So she taught me how to do this, and I got to share it with my daughters, and my dad is really good at it. And I've also had the opportunity to teach classes. I've taught them at parishes, catechism classes, women's groups. Actually, when you're at work, taught all the ladies in the studio. They had so much fun with this. Oh, yeah. Those are all their Easter eggs there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then
they're so colorful.
They are. And then I've had some really young students too. And you'll see in the video some picture of me and my youngest daughter back in the day. We learned when we were little, and as soon as a kid could hold a pencil, you were allowed to work. And helping that one student is actually my dad in the corner there. Yeah,
I thought I recognized him.
He has so much fun sitting in on the classes because the kids watch him and say, "I want to do what you're doing." Because this is what my dad always does.
He looks like he knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah. He is the Easter lily master. He has made an Easter lily egg as long as I can remember. So I guess, 50 plus years of practice, he's gotten really good at it.
Yeah. How pretty.
Yeah. That's kind of neat to see in this picture. You can actually see how he's in progress in the one that he's holding.
Yeah. I was just looking at that.
And then you see the final version of it all dyed purple.
Yeah.
And then just want everybody to see just the variety that I've make over the years. From simple, I say simple, but the white and red one to me is simple.
Yeah.
Because it's just the one dunking. And then I get a little more elaborate. in the center, you can see in the bottom row, there's the egg with a cross on it and the grapevines, and the IHS right next to it. The one with the cross is actually done on a brown egg, which gives those really rich tones.
Yeah, there's a depth there.
The blue one is on white eggs, and you get those bright springtime tones.
Yeah, I love the the dark black. I like it looks almost. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. After soaking it in purple and blue for hours, you get all this crazy depth and color. And then, of course, I start taking the Masters of Sacred Art program. Okay, let's see if I can do an icon egg. Why not? So this was when I do them that elaborate. I do draw on it with pencil to lay out everything. Yeah. In order to get all of those colors, you have to work from light to dark. So I have to plan where's the white going to be, where's the yellow going to be, where's the red going to be. And you can actually have a mistake there. I don't know how I ended up with the red dots above his eyes, but I just say those are from the crown of thorns.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's obvious. Yeah. That's where it's from.
Oh, obvious.
You meant to do that.
I meant to do that. Yeah. So, but first of all, everyone needs to know the whole reason why this show is even possible is because of Alix Murray.
Oh, yeah. Blame me.
So I am blaming you. So first of all, a couple years back when you'll see the video that we'll present, that's actually like a class that I had to teach via video because it was during lockdown. I was at a nursing home and they're like, we're sorry, we can't let you be with them face to face. You're going to have to record a video. I was so nervous. And Alix was kind enough to set up a Zoom class for me to practice with her friends in England. And so I was able to work out, okay, how am I going to do this? Talking to a camera instead of people. It was just so weird for me. I'm not used to that. I'm camera shy.
Well, not anymore.
No, not anymore. I mean, so much so that my dear friend Alix was the one who kind of convinced me that, hey, we should do a show on SQPN.
I know.
That's why we're here, folks.
I know. The rest is history. So.
The rest is history. And thank you all for making this possible. We love our patrons.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I remember that that class that we did. It was really, I would say it was pretty chaotic because we were all on different Zooms and or everyone was at home, obviously, but just having everyone trying to figure it out. And then a really dear friend of mine, Teresa Potter, is from Poland. And so she was having the best time and remembering things and telling us stories. And the people had their kids and
look what I found.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And these are all, these are some photographs from the class that we did, the Zoom class we did. But this is where we were kind of like, oh my gosh, some things are a little different. With the dyes that we bought in Britain, they didn't work. I think for a couple of reasons. They did a little bit. They're quite subtle, the colors, but in Britain, and I think it's all over Europe as well. So we don't refrigerate our eggs at all. And because they're not washed when they they're probably rinsed, but they're not washed. So
they're farm fresh and they taste so good.
They really are. And, with a really gorgeous golden yolk. I mean, I really love that. But, if you buy a carton of eggs, the chances of them having feathers, among other things, on them is pretty high. And I think that's what affected the dye. Don't you? They didn't absorb very well. And I think it's because, we should have washed them a little bit better. But
washing the egg is important. Very important.
Yes. And drying the egg. Sorry. I mean, it's for people like me.
And that will get explained in the video that you're about to see.
Yes. And I'm just thinking, so do you have any more pictures because there's a reason I'm here. I'm involved in this. And if you have, so
look at this,
is what so what I did this year was like, I am not buying EU and British food standard approved dye. So I bought some from Bulgaria and it worked really well. And, we'll see what happens in terms of trying to eat it, but I think it'll be fine actually. Yes. So these are
colors.
I know nice. That they were so much nicer. And I did get blue eggs, this time around. So I think that made a difference as well. But one of the reasons I'm here, dear patrons, is you can look at my eggs and this should encourage you like, well, I could do better than that.
Oh, come on. Those are so cute.
So this is just try it. Just try it. And it was fun and it's a little bit awkward and strange at first. It takes practice, but everything worth doing takes practice. So it is fun. It's something that you can do along with the video. Or you can watch the video, get the instructions, get some ideas, some inspiration, because Kathryn does a fantastic job. And you can, it was really, really good. And I just sat and watched the video and did my eggs. So you can do it that way. Or as I said, you can watch it and kind of absorb the information and then try it. Do you know what? Now thinking about it, the reason I felt confident to just go, I'm just going to sit down and get my stuff and get going is because we did it before. If I'd never done it before, I might not want to do it. So, but it's up to you. It's your personality. Everyone's personality is different. Yeah. And, but yes, it's very relaxing. It's fun to do. Kids can do it. Adults can do it. It's neat. Yeah,
it is. It's lots of fun. I actually have behind me some of my stuff there.
Yeah.
I do love having the little electric hot plate.
That's a good idea.
Give a nice even melt to the wax. Because I'm not using the candle method that some people might have seen with the real fancy fine line stuff. This method we have is a little simpler and it is great for kids and families. It's so easy to do with a wide
easily
range
accessible
of ages. Yeah, definitely.
It's easily accessible and you can just, it's a lot more, because when we did it, we kind of weren't sure if we could do it because where are you going to get this stuff and what can you do? Mm-hmm. But everyone here managed to get the supplies because they had pins and pencils and I think the beeswax was the thing that you're like, okay, but that was easy enough to order. So,
or like I say, just head to the church, ask for some candle stubs.
That's an excellent idea. Excellent idea. Yeah. I used for this second time round for these eggs, and here's one that I didn't, so this is the last one I did. So it's a little
zoom that
bit
real close for us to your camera.
I haven't taken the wax off of this one. I had the, don't look at that, but anyway.
Was there smudge?
Probably, yeah, because I dropped it anyway. But I ordered a Pisanki kit that had the little tube, that heated metal tube, but it was kind of like, I don't know, a clown show here on my own. I'm glad I was by myself because the holder that I got, and be careful with this, like if you want to order something like this, the one that I got, it was wooden. And I'm like, I'm like, oh, well, surely it's not going to catch on fire. They wouldn't sell it, right? The Bulgarians wouldn't sell something like this. Anyway, the whole thing caught on fire last night. I ended up dropping the egg. Yeah. So plan ahead.
Use the electric hot plate. Do not play with fire.
I know. I'm like concentrating so much on the wax, and I'm like, the whole thing's on fire. Yeah. Anyway, so don't do that.
No, don't do that. Don't start any fires, please, folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, so enjoy.
I hope everyone really enjoys the class, and please share pictures with us if you make some this year, if you make your Pisanki, or if you don't even want them called Pisanki and just say our attempt at scribbling wax on eggs. It's fun that way too.
Exactly.
We have a great group on Discord. So the Secrets of Sacred Art has its own channel on Discord. And if you'd share your pictures there, and we'll share our pictures, and we just hope everybody has a blessed and happy Easter.
Absolutely, yes. Gupaska.
Beso luego, hallelujah. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Not yet.
All right, well, enjoy the video.
Yes. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, hello, Witam, Polish for welcome or hello. I'm Kathryn Laffrey. I'm a local artist here in the Rockford area, and I am currently working primarily in liturgical or sacred art, and I do a lot of embroidery work, some painting, and then also some domestic sacred art is what I like to call this. This is a tradition that's been handed down to me for generations. These are Polish Easter eggs called Pisanki. And we have some lovely little eggs here, just a real simple design on the eggs. And these eggs are traditionally shared between family members at Easter time, even with special friends. And the term Pisanki is interesting because it's actually derived from a Polish word that means to write. And in a sense, with our little pencil and pin, we are actually writing on the egg with hot wax. What's really interesting is this term writing is actually used in iconography in so many different cultures around the world. Decorating eggs has been around for tens of thousands of years. They've actually found very old eggs, some made out of stone, some made out of ceramic. And this wax technique is actually globally used. It's a lot in the East, in China and Japan, and then throughout Eastern Europe. And they've even found wax designs like this in ancient Egypt. So it's a technique that's very old and yet still so fascinating and new and easily accessible to use today. I've been able to hand on to my daughters, and my daughter Samantha was 4 years old in this picture where she was working on an egg with me. And this is generally how we would start with the younger ones. This is how Busha started with us, where we would kind of hand in hand help them through it. And it's amazing how quickly children will pick this up. They just run with it. They don't try to figure it out. It just happens naturally. And as soon as they can hold a pen or pencil in their hand, they're right at it doing it. I've actually taught this class to kids 3-4 years old, and as old as I've done a ladies group with some ladies in their 80s. What's really special to me is as I started taking over the process in our family, and instead of going to Busha's house, we would come over to my house and we'd have all the cousins come over and aunts and uncles, and probably be 20 of us. I'd set up the hot pan on an island counter and then the dyes at another table, and we just kept going back and forth between the two. But when Busha saw that, hey, this is something you're going to keep going, she gave me my great-grandfather's tool that he made. He came to America in the early 1900s. This tool is probably 110 years old now. It's a good guess. But he did a simple little pin at one end of it, so it's very much mimicking what Busha eventually made much easier for us, where we have a pencil. She used to be an elementary school teacher, so she had plenty of pencils, and then some pins. And so he did a pin technique. What's another style, he had simply pounded out a small sheet of copper and put it in here to make a little funnel. And this would be a modern day equivalent, a little fancier. For these, you have to use a lit candle and a little block of beeswax to scoop the funnel full of beeswax, hold it in the candle, and then start drawing on your egg. And this gets you very fine line details that are very similar to this egg here, which, as you can see, all those little fine lines, and I've seen some where the entire egg is just covered with layers of fine line detail and different colors, which come from all the different dippings. So you can see that, there's so many beautiful images of this, but like I said, these were meant to be eaten. And we would actually incorporate these into our Easter basket. And on Holy Saturday, we would take our decorated eggs, kielbasa, ham. If my mom made hot cross buns, we would take those, fresh made bread. I would carve a lamb out of butter, and we would have salt and olive oil for the year to be blessed and a candle to be blessed. And we would head to the Polish Catholic Church, and then we'd have the basket blessing. And I have a painting here that's from St. Casimir's in Detroit. And this is on their wall in one of their rooms just to celebrate the Polish heritage of St. Casimir's in Detroit. And this is like what I remember. You'd go into church and everybody would, go in to find which pew they could get to. All these baskets would be lining the main aisle. And if the church got really full, it was around the front of the aisles, down the side aisles, and you smelled everybody's fresh Easter dinner. And it just smelled amazing. Having all those memories and then being able to share them and pass them on to other people. And the more I talk about it with people, some others will be like, oh, I remember that tradition too. Or yeah, my family talked about that. And I would love to do this. And I always tell people, you don't have to be Polish to do this. It's just something fun. And, you can be adopted in and be Polish for a day, just like everyone's Irish for a day on St. Patrick's Day. So what I have here in front of me, I've got the pan with the hot wax, which is definitely nice and hot now. And I usually have the wax generally about 180 to 120 degrees. I was doing some research on beeswax because I had someone ask me, why is beeswax so important for this? And other than the fact that beeswax was important for church candles, and most of the time our family just knew that if you needed wax for the Pisanki, just go to the church and ask them for the candle stubs. There's always little stubs left over, and they're blessed, so they can't be thrown away. So they usually wait for someone to take them, or they end up just being burnt in a special fire. Beeswax is actually special within the church, and the reason why they picked it for the candles was because it was believed that the queen bee symbolized the Virgin Mary. And so they took on that imagery as that's the Virgin Mary, and she is the queen and mother of the church. And so here's our beeswax. And sometimes you'll see little images of beehives in and around churches. So it's fun to go look for the different imagery around churches to see, like, okay, what does this mean? Why is that there? There's always a good reason for it. But besides our hot beeswax, like I said, we have our pencils. And if you notice my pencils, I have two different color erasers. This was to appease Busha, because back when she would go get the pins and pencils for us, there used to be sewing head pins that were much larger than they are today. And she always liked the larger pins because she could get nice big designs. This was her favorite style egg to do. And so with this egg and this big pin, she could do lots of these little sunburst patterns. When it came to the skinny eggs, she's like, I don't like those. They're too skinny, and they're not what I'm used to. And I was like, I know, Busha, but I can do real fine line designs with the smaller pin. The other thing we have is good old Paz decorating tablets. They're the best. I have to say they're the best worldwide. I actually did a Pisanki class recently via the internet with some friends in the UK, and they were jealous of how bright my colors were. So I wanted to do a little research on Paz. And one of the ladies said, well, you know what Paz means, right? And I was like, what? And she's like, that's a Danish derivative of Easter, of Paschal. And I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, so what's the story behind Paz? And it ends up that they had Danish family roots. They came to America actually about the same time as my great-grandfather, and they were in the Pennsylvania area, and they found out that there were a lot of people decorating eggs, all these Eastern Europeans coming in at the same time, and so they worked out a formula to have really good, easy-to-use dyes, and that's how their whole story goes, and they are the best. I love all the colors they have for us. They give good color, bright color that really lasts long on the eggs. And it works well with the wax. All right, so we have our tools. We have our bees. The one thing Busha said we absolutely have to have: rinse cups for the spoons. There were a couple years where us young kids would be working with the eggs, and you notice we're not using the little wire scoop that comes in the packet. That's because when you're doing the wax, the wire scoop has a tendency to either react with it or somehow just it knocks the wax off the egg, and it just doesn't look as pretty. So she's always been, we use a spoon, and then because my brothers would just go from one color to the next, to the next, to the next, she's like, no, you're gonna rinse your spoon between each color. We're not going to end up with mud at the end of the day. So we always had nice bright colors with our little spoons. And then paper towel. Lots and lots of paper towel. You'll see as I get working on these that between the different colors, it's important to dry off your egg. You don't want to have one color bleeding into another. And if your egg is damp, when you go to put the wax on, it's not going to stick. Now to the eggs. Our eggs are hard-boiled, and this is actually a tradition that goes out through a lot of different cultures. Like I said, mostly the blown-out hollow eggs are done for just decorative purposes. And it's important that your eggs are not cold. If they're too cold and you go to put the wax on, the wax will just fall right off. And if they're too cold, it's just not going to get a good dye. And your hands have to be clean. It's very important that you don't have any lotion on your hands. Oil on the egg will keep the dye and the wax from really sticking to the shell. And I'll actually take it a step farther, and when I'm boiling my eggs to get all the natural oils off of the eggshell, I'll add a little bit of vinegar to the water. So that just kind of helps clean the shell and get it ready. And then, what else do we have on the table here? We got our paper towel and our rinse spoon, so I think we're ready to get started. So we're going to start with good old Busha Classic on a nice white egg. We'll even get out Busha's favorite size pin. And when you're working with this, there's a bit of a rhythm that will start to happen. I used to love this sound as a kid, where you hear people dip in the wax, dip to their egg, and there's this constant little tink, tink, tink noise. And it's fun until you get a bunch of people around there, or until your brother shows up, because he won't go from here to his egg, he'll go from here to your hand and just harass you, because that's what brothers do. But God bless brothers, you ought to love their ideas. So what's really fun about this starburst pattern is it actually has meaning. So Christ is the light of the world. You can see here I'm just kind of giving a little touch and pull. If I did not move quick enough from the wax to the egg, it would end up hardening on the pin, and then it won't transfer to the egg. So this starburst pattern represents light, that burst of light that came forth when Christ was alive. And it also makes us remember that when God created the world, on the first day he said, "Let there be light." Christ is the new creation, and he was resurrected on the 8th day, which is like the next first day. And so he is the light of the world. So there's the little design on the egg there. So I'm not able to see that. It's kind of hard to see white on white, but what's really fun is when we take this and put it in a color. We're going to make this one a little multicolored instead of just the classic blue and white like Busha. If you're going to do lots of colors, it's good to start with something light. So we're going to start with a little yellow on this one. And we'll let that have a good little soak. Now you notice I also have some brown eggs. I started doing brown eggs a couple years ago when, after a class that I was teaching up north in some farm country, I had a bunch of students come in and they had eggs from their geese, their chickens, their ducks, and we had such a rainbow of colors before they even died. They were like, is it okay if we use these? I'm like, yeah, as long as they're not oily, then we can use them. And so we had kids dyeing blue-green duck eggs. It was amazing to see the effect that the dyes had with that blue-green underneath. And sometimes it was really unexpected. And then the brown eggs I love because they give this deep vintage color to it. So you get, by comparison, here's probably the same colors on two different eggs. This is on a white egg, and this is on a brown egg. And I love those deep vintage colors. So on this one, some of the other designs that are traditional for Polish eggs are the cross. So we have the cross of Christ, and we'll do that in brown on the egg. So when you are laying down the wax saves whatever color it goes on top of. So because I'm putting wax on top of a brown egg, that brown egg color will stay where the wax is. The dye can't get underneath the wax because it's been sealed off. And another tradition to put on this cross egg is in Polish, when you're wishing someone happy Easter, actually it's more of an exclamation, you're saying Wesołego Alleluja, which is like the great Alleluia. All right, so on here, we're also going to put the writing on the back now. I'm actually going to add a little border. You can see sometimes in some of the eggs where there's little dividing lines that'll divide the egg to like a front and back section. This is just such a satisfying thing for me. I just love the feel of the pin rolling the wax onto the egg. I think the first time when I was younger, I tried to do this and was so disappointed that I couldn't get my line to meet up back where I started. It took me a while to figure out how to turn the egg without going sideways and ending up with a big spiral. They actually have devices now for people that will hold the egg like a little egg lathe, so it'll turn and crank and turn the egg for you. But on here, I'm going to put the Easter greeting, and you can write simple little block letters on here. But there's that little click and scratch sound that I just love. Someone should almost write a musical composition to go with it. My dad will make sure that he always writes on his egg, "He is risen," or "Happy Easter," and then he'll put the date. He always likes to have one with the date on it. Okay, so now here, taking the egg out, just where the paper towel comes in. I just kind of take it off the spoon and give it a little roll in love. And you can see where the wax looks like it's white. And the egg is bright yellow. What'll be fun is we want to add to this burst of light. And so I'm going to, making sure my egg is dry enough, going to add to this little burst all around it some more of these lines. So it'll feel like that light's just exploding out of the egg. So eggs have actually been a symbol of new life for eons. I think everybody throughout human history has been looking for new life, looking for God. And God did place that desire in our hearts, and he left his thumbprint on creation for us to really seek him. Easter eggs. They are a symbol of new life. We see them as even representative of the tomb. And so when you break one open, it's just like Christ being resurrected from the tomb. And there's even in The Lord of the Rings, or The Hobbit, where you have the little quiz or riddles between Bilbo and Gollum. And they're talking about, one of them was the egg, and it was like a box with no hinges, lock or lid, and golden treasure is hid within. So you got to think about that egg representing that golden treasure, that new life. It was interesting when that riddle was said in the movie, how Gollum got nostalgic about his, I think his grandmother or his mother. So you see now I'm putting the egg into orange. And so all that yellow is now gonna slowly turn to orange. And let's see how our cross egg is doing. Oh, that's a lovely color. So you can see with the brown underneath, this teal is taken on a real pretty, almost stone-like color. Slightly green, slightly brown. Yeah, I like these old vintage looks. And sometimes I'll use whatever color comes out as inspiration for what I'm going to do next. So since this has this nice little green color on it, I'm going to use that to add another traditional design, and that's almost like a palm style. I'll actually go with a little thinner pencil on this. What's really fun is in learning more about the traditions of Easter eggs, I came across some legends. And one of them I was really surprised at, because everyone has heard the story about Simon of Cyrene, who had to carry the cross for Christ. But not too many people have heard the legend about him that has to do with Easter eggs. So he was believed to be a farmer, and he was in Jerusalem. We have the big Passover festivals happening, so they need eggs. And he had brought his eggs into market to sell when it happens that the Roman soldier grabbed him and said, "Hey, you're going to help carry the cross." Well, here he is worried about losing all the eggs that he brought in because there's no one there to watch his eggs for him. And so he goes, he carries the cross, and when he comes back, different legends from different cultures say that the eggs were either multicolored or they were red to represent Christ's passion, and that he was so overjoyed that his eggs were there that he went out and gave them to people and telling them about, Christ and about what was done for him. There's actually some traditions that have that the decorating of the eggs came from Mary, that she had a basket of eggs with her when she was at the foot of the cross, and that they were speckled by the blood of Christ sprinkling upon them. Another tradition has her actually taking her eggs to go to Pilate to beg for Jesus's body off the cross. And then she actually was sharing the eggs along the way, and so that was a tradition for sharing the eggs. That's why for me, I feel like it's so important that when I make an egg, I like to share them. That is handing on a tradition. You know, whether or not the legends are true, it doesn't matter. They speak a truth of how we are supposed to share our faith. And so that's why I call this domestic sacred art. This is something we can do at home, we can do with our families, do with our friends. My second oldest daughter was so excited to share the eggs with some of her high school friends that she says, "Mom, can we have them come over too?" And so we actually planned a day and had them come over and decorate eggs with her. They were so excited to do it. See, when I grew up, my mom didn't do the Easter bunny with us. We didn't go looking for eggs because, boy, we had just decorated a bunch of them. Why do we need to go looking for more eggs? So it's neat to see how there's so many different family traditions. Well, there, that's lots of little lines on this to make that palm pattern. Yeah, we have Palm Sunday coming up, so we'll have more fun things to do with palms. All right, I think we're going to give this a little bit of red. And then let's see how our egg is doing in the orange. Oh, that's beautiful. I also got to be careful which paper towel I grab. If I've been working with blue and green, I try not to grab anything yellow or orange. It has a tendency to make it get muddy. But there we go. Oh, that's a nice bright one. Look how lovely that orange goes over the yellow. And we get such a nice burst of color. And we don't want to stop there because it's real fun when these get lots of colors on them. So this time, we're going to add a little more of a burst to this. Now, sometimes I plan out my eggs. Sometimes I just like to see where it's going to take me, see what's going to happen. Every year I'll try to get a little elaborate with one. Last year I actually did one with an icon on it. I don't have it because I actually gave it to my priest and told him he had to eat it on Easter Sunday. I don't know if he did or not. He said he wasn't sure if he could crack into that pretty egg, but isn't that a fun sound? A little ting. And sometimes when I'll teach these classes, especially when there's little kids around, I always like to ask them what color should happen next, just to see where they go with it. Sometimes kids have some fun, crazy ideas for eggs. All right. Let's give this a real pop of color. I'm going to go purple. There have been times when I have wanted really dark eggs that I will soak them in purple, then in red, then in blue, then back in purple, and just let it soak for a long time. One time I had an egg that I really wanted to be dark, so I was soaking it. I started cleaning up the rest of the kitchen. It was pretty late because sometimes I'll decorate till midnight. It's kind of crazy. But I forgot about the egg. And so the next day, I was going to dump out the colors, and there was an egg still sitting in the purple, and it was just beautiful, just a rich, deep, almost eggplant color. So it's like sometimes I want to do it, but then I'm like going, do I want to eat that egg later? I don't know. So here's our cross egg. I decided to put it in red since it represents Christ's passion. It's got a nice red, brown, almost like terracotta color. They're just real simple. On the one side, we have Vesawago Alleluia. So the Great Alleluia. And then the cross on the other side. So I love these brown eggs. Now you notice I have little tiny pieces of paper towel in here. When I put the eggs back in the container, I'll do that because sometimes the eggs will sweat a little. And I don't want to ruin all my pretty dyes, so that paper towel there just helps to keep their little atmosphere dry. And here's a nice little lovely egg. Boy, this one's almost round. My second oldest daughter every year will look for the roundest egg. She doesn't want a tall one. She wants it squatty and round because every year she says, Mom, I want to bless the world. All right, so another egg I want to share with you is one that my dad always does every year. This is nowhere near what he's done in the past, but he loves putting Easter lilies on his egg. And it always has to finish in blue and just have a beautiful color to it. Sometimes he'll get real creative and make sure the leaves are 2 different shades of green. So he'll be really happy when I bring up dyes like this that have 2 different shades of green. So when you're working on something like this, where you know what you're going to make, and it's going to look like something, you have to plan ahead. So I know that I want white lilies. So I have to imagine where the lilies are going to be, plan out and do those different petals, dye it in yellow next, because the next thing I'm going to do are the little pollen clusters that are on the lilies. So you kind of always have to think a step ahead going, okay, what do I want to be white? So we want white lilies. I've done some bigger versions of this, and my dad says it's not the same as mine. I'm like, I know it's not the same as yours, Dad. No one does them like you do. I have to admit, I've always been pretty impressed by his Easter lily egg. He's actually gone with me a couple of times to teach classes, and it's always fun to see. He'll just sit in front of the pot of wax, and he'll end up with a little pile of kids all around him, just watching as these little lilies appear on his egg. And then there's usually the question of, can you teach me how to do that? Let's see. Oh, you know what? I could put a little border on this one too. Boy, I can always see on the bottom of this egg, I had touched it when I had dye on my finger, and I left a little orange spot on the bottom. But sometimes you can make other things into that. Okay, so I have the white lilies on the egg, and then that's going to go into the yellow so that I can make the pollen. All right, let's see how our first one is turning out in the purple. Well, we could probably let that soak a little longer. Or if we really want to darken it up, we'll let it sit in the blue too. I'm always amazed at the different creative ideas my daughters or nieces and nephews will come up with year after year. And a lot of times their designs are based on whatever they're interested in that year. There's one year when we had all 3 girls in school going away to school. And so we ended up with 2 Michigan State eggs and a Central Michigan egg. Because, they kind of think that their egg design is like symbolically blessing that part of their life, which I think is really special. One year, my daughter was big time into sunsets. She thought, oh, if I could live anywhere, I want to be in Florida and see the sunset by a palm tree every day. And she actually dipped her egg so she could make a nice little sunset on there with a palm tree. So it was really pretty. I don't think I could replicate that one, though. She did such a good job. But let's look over here and find a little inspiration. This is a nice little egg for some inspiration. So if I want to replicate this egg, I'll probably do it on a brown one because I really love how the red looks on brown. I need to do all the white parts first. So we have these little dots here. We have the center of the flower and these little flowers out at the end. We'll keep that there as inspiration. Some other designs that'll end up on Easter eggs are lambs. Sometimes you can get really creative with that. And the cross, we've done that one. And little birds. That always looks pretty when there's birds on them. And then a lot of times just a simple geometric pattern. And the reason for the geometric pattern, and this is something that's been done throughout art history in so many different cultures, is because there's the, I think it's in the Psalms and in several other places where it talks about God put everything in right order. And we have to know that it is in his right order. So those geometric patterns help to remind us that God has a plan, that everything's laid out for his purpose and his design. Actually, what I like about this egg design is this pattern of dots that I'm putting on now, pointing to the bottom, the top, and the left and the right of this egg, almost like compass points. And there's a tradition in iconography that having different elements moving out into four directions is to remind us of the movement of the gospel, moving out to the four corners of the earth. That's kind of a fun idea. I love how the texture of this wax is too. Sometimes people actually melt the wax off so they just have a smooth design and the brighter colors. But sometimes the actual texture of the wax plays into the design, especially with dots. My older sister, that was her favorite thing to do. She wanted dot patterns on all of her eggs, mostly because she would say, I just can't do anything else. I don't have the talent for it. But I always told her, nope, that works. That'll be a nice little pattern on the front. So we have the white dots laid out, the little white flowers. Because this has a little bit of yellow to it, I'm going to have to give it a little yellow, but just like at home, somebody's in the yellow. Who's in the yellow? I can only blame myself, though. All right, there's our yellow. So we'll take this one out. And we'll get our next one in. Okay. As you can see here, we have the lily flowers, and there's some lily buds laid out. And I don't need to do much on this because I want to just add the yellow. I don't know about anybody else, but boy, that was always a fun thing in our house to play with those little pollen things on the lilies. Of course, then my mom would say, "You're getting it all over your dress." But it's so much fun to play with. All right, and since I do have 2 shades of green, I'm going to let that get a little light green on it for some of the lighter leaves. And then let's check on the one that we had soaking in the blue. There's a nice color. You can see how just taking it from the purple to the blue gave it just a whole different look. So we end up with that wonderful burst of light. That's a pretty egg. Now there's actually a few patterns that are regional that different people do around Poland. Well, how many do we have to? And it's always interesting to see what different patterns people gravitate to. I had one student of mine who she felt like she couldn't draw a straight line, and I said, "Don't worry about drawing a straight line." And she did squiggles all over her egg. And I was like, "Just start at the top and work your way down." And every time she just kept going from one color to another. By the time she was done, her egg was bright white to yellow to red to orange, and it really just looked like the egg was just exploding with color, and she was so happy. She was like, "I didn't even have to draw a straight line." I'm like, "Nope, all those little squiggles were beautiful on there." All right, so we have this lovely pale yellow, or green, and we'll let that be some of the leaves up by the buds. So you can see as you try to get more complicated with your designs, sometimes there's not a lot of wax to a lot of different trips to the dyes. And since this is Dad's favorite style, we'll put the date on the back here. So if this egg gets blessed, then that's adding a little blessing to 2021. We can always use a little more blessings. All right, we're going to put this in the dark green now so we can have green leaves. All righty, who do we have soaking where? Yeah, yellow on brown is an interesting combination. A little mustardy looking, but it'll work. Yeah, I've actually had some people ask me, "Well, how do you get so many different colors of wax?" Well, it's like the wax is just see-through. It's showing the colors underneath. But there's actually now some people that have changed that. And because they weren't sure how this worked, they decided they were going to just melt a bunch of different colored wax. And so now they'll do a white egg with a lot of different colorful wax on it, which is interesting, but I wonder about the color of the wax. I mean, hopefully it's natural and food safe. That's what I like about these. They are food safe so we can eat them. I actually had a nephew who used to try to get his Easter eggs early because he would drop his egg while he was working on it, or he'd say it fell. And we were like, if you want to eat an egg, just ask, but there's for Easter. And he'd be like, "But it fell." And then finally we started telling him, "You're going to decorate the broken ones," which actually turned out to be a really fun mistake because the eggs that were crackled the most, the dye seeped through the cracks. And when he peeled the egg, it looked like it was made out of marble. And he thought that was so cool. And then sometimes he would try to seal up the cracks with the wax. So then the egg itself had a cracked egg design, which is pretty neat to see. Yeah, he lives way out west now. He's working at Yellowstone. And just the other day, he sent me a message that he had learned how to make sledja, traditionally pickled herring. But because he was living out west and he was pike fishing, he made pickled pike. He was so happy to show me. I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe the stuff you're doing. What would Busha think? Not traditional, but so happy that it's happening, probably. And so he inspired me. My sister had given me some ground venison from when they were hunting last year. And I decided to make Polish stuffed cabbage with venison. I thought, okay, Busha, this is not traditional at all. But boy, did it taste good. I was amazed at how good the venison tasted in the stuffed cabbage. Golubki is the Polish for that. Okay, so we've added a few more little lines on here. And we're going to add this into light green. And let's see how our lilies are doing. Oh, that's a nice shade of green. Oh, yeah. There we go. So here we have the lilies in white with their little yellow pollen, and then some light green stems and leaves. And then we're going to do the rest of the stems and the rest of the leaves. You can see here the 2021. It's always fun to see what inspirational ideas we'll come up with year after year. It's been a couple years where my husband's birthday has been on Easter or Good Friday, so he's gotten some happy birthday eggs. All right, so we got some leaves on there. Let's add a little pizzazz to 2021. It's funny, it's just me, and I have two pans going here, but I'm finding out I like having the two pans because I don't have to look. I can just kind of see out of my peripheral vision that there's a pan down there somewhere. Okay, so now we'll give this its finishing touch in blue. I'm noticing some of these eggs are a little big, and so they kind of float to the top. You can kind of see it with this one. And if I didn't keep turning that egg over, I'm going to end up with a light spot there. We'll have to give that a couple turns later on. I'm like always going, where'd the egg go? There it is. All right, that needs a little darker green, I think. There we go. That's the green color we needed. So I'm going to add a few green leaves on this. And then in the painted egg that I'm using as my inspiration, they have pink flowers. Because I have this green down, I don't think soaking this in pink is going to be a very good idea. Probably end up with a very muddy color. So I think what we'll go for, we'll see what we can get with the purple. Maybe get a pretty purple color. It's always tricky. You don't want to get too dark too soon. And I'm going to add a little green leaf around the back side here. Now I have seen where people will actually erase some color off their egg. So they'll have a solution with water and vinegar, a couple different things to actually try to rinse off some of the dye so that they can go from like dark colors back to light colors. I just don't want all of that mess, so I just keep going and see what happens. I like to be surprised. That's what's fun about these. You can stick it in and think one thing's going to happen, and then usually you end up with a pleasant surprise. There's the blue color. Oh yeah. There's a lily egg. We have our lovely little Easter lilies. And then 2021. Let that dry out there. All right, let's see how our brown egg is doing. Oh, look at that color. Like a vintage lavender. Kind of reminds me of some of my grandmother's old jewelry. And so now I'm just adding in the flower petals. And we can add a little buds to the outside. I think we'll let this one finish off in red. Oh, that's a nice pretty color. So just putting a lot of different wax on there gives it a nice lovely color. Let's get a little something under there. So yeah, there we are, our adventure in Pisanki. I'm going to let that one soak for just a little bit and see how it turns out. Turn the wax off. Let that harden up. What's really nice is I can use these pans year after year. I rarely need to add any more. I have so many pans going now from teaching classes. And it's really nice just to know that it's like ready to go every year. And yeah, there it is. A little bit of welcome to my family tradition. And I hope you enjoyed it. I think we could probably peek on that one in the red. Oh yeah, that's a good red color. And you can see our final egg here. With just a little simple geometric and floral on there.